Hi, I'm Trinity Vandenaker and welcome to Life in the West. Today, get ready for a full farm-to-table experience. I was able to actually go visit a family. They built a facility where you can take your beef to get butchered, but they're also taking their top quality Wagyu beef and butchering it as well. So this four-step process is we're gonna start where they're calving, go to where they're fattening, and then go across the street and see how the cattle are butchered and cook and eat some American Wagyu beef. Good, how are you? Good. Oh, it was perfect.
Roads are good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
This is Nels and Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We just met the other day at a, what was it, a reception, wedding reception. And so I got to hearing about their operation and thought I'd stop by. This is a big operation.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a big operation. So yeah, no, we do a lot. We do a little bit of everything. You know, I watched a few of your videos and stuff, and just talking, you know, because you talk about the different operations that there are for ranchers to make money. We do them all. And then this is Macy.
Macy,
Nice
good to meet you. I'm Trinity.
Nice to meet you. I've seen your video.
Have you? Okay. Yeah, I can't hide anywhere anymore, can I? No. When was this started?
So Griffin Land and Cattle started in the early
1991.
90s. Yeah, 1991. So Spencer Griffin, my father-in-law, Andrea's dad, he just started buying Black
First
Angus
herd was
cattle.
25 head of cattle.
Yeah.
And we kept
25 head to start with.
25 head, and he bought a ranch out in Rygate, Montana in 1991. And his first 25 head we kept at the barn, pretty close, just a couple miles from our house. And that's where we started. And it slowly grew from there. And we've done a lot of embryo work and a lot of AIing and a lot of, he loves genetics. And he is the genetic breeding guy. He's very knowledgeable about that.
I mean, what made him want to start? Did his family, was his family in ranching or no?
His parents never, he's first generation rancher, and his family never, I mean, he always grew up on the farm and he grew beans and raised pigs, and, you know, they always had animals. Yep, and that's kind of where I think his love for animals started, but the cattle really...
Well, looking at this operation, I can tell he, whoever this is a businessman. You know, I think a lot of times people forget that ranching is actually a business that you should make money at. And, you know, because they've grown up in it, it's like a lot of people are third generation ranchers and they don't know any different. So they don't really remember that it, you know, to make it pay, to keep it going, you know, especially when you're starting first generation, you actually have to make money right off the bat.
For sure.
These are my two brothers. This is Ben.
Two brothers. Trinity.
Ben. Nice
Ben?
to meet you.
Joe Griffin.
Nice.
Joe, good to meet you.
Father,
This is my sister, Chelsea.
Oh, how you doing?
Yeah.
How you doing? Everybody's involved in the place, huh?
We are. We really
Good.
are. So yeah, it is. It's all family all the time. So
You don't talk to a lot of people who are first generation ranchers,
yeah.
right? Most people, their ancestors came here at least 50 years ago, you know, and bought land when it was cheap,
Yeah. Right.
or cheaper, or at least the ratio to what you could sell a cow for and equipment and everything was way different compared to land. So is it self-sustaining now, the ranching portion, or is it getting there?
We're getting
It's a
there.
work of progress. Yeah.
Look at that. All of them piled in the back.
That's right.
Gave me the front seat. Oh. So I...
Back. Now let's go up to the fall calves first, and we'll start there. And a lot of cattle guards.
I noticed that. You guys have... So if you guys see right here is a cattle guard that so they don't have to open and close the gates every time they go through, which works okay with cattle, not so much with horses.
No.
So,
My horse just goes right over top of them. I'm surprised he hasn't broken something yet.
do we want to get So this is our group of recips. There's about 75 head in here, and they just calved in September, October. And these are the older calves. The double red ear tags you're gonna see on the calves are full blood Wagyu. The double white calves ear tags are commercials, and our double yellows are our registered calves that I'm working on. So these girls just got implanted with full blood Wagyu embryos on December 9th. And we've got the Wagyu bulls in here to clean up. So anybody who doesn't get pregnant with an embryo will be a half blood Wagyu. So
nice. And so what are recips?
So recips are, I guess, the best way to maybe describe is like a surrogate mom. So we take an embryo and we have a process. We work closely with a vet to set them up with, and Ben's really good at this as well. Lots of, it takes about a month process to set them up.
Yeah.
Probably, shots and cedar and different kind of things to get them all synced at the same time to come into heat. And then vet comes, put the embryos in. So basically they get pregnant with a calf that is not their own.
So, and if you want to know more about the recips and embryo transplants, you can go to a video that I have right here where I walked through that on an operation, Leachman Angus. It's one other way that ranchers they attempt to up their production, because even though maybe the conception rate might not be as high, right? But right. The quality of the animal that you're getting, especially for meat, is much higher out of what you're getting than you could just by breeding what you have in the field.
So that's a full-blood Wagyu calf right there. They're not quite as hardy as the full-blood Angus, at least in my opinion, but they are really good to eat.
So are all these cattle right here, are they raised full-time in a feedlot situation?
A lot. We do have some ground that we push them out to in the summer after we do a lot of dry land farming. And so once we get the harvest, everything's planted right now. And so they all come in for the winter. And then after we harvest in June-ish, we can start kicking like the spring pairs out and get everybody out on some pastures.
Just dry land farming is when you farm with no irrigation. That's just like, and we'll get into, so we're going to go through your process of where you're starting out with. These calves obviously are born pretty recently, so this is fall calving, and then you raise them all the way up in the feedlot till or outside the feedlot until they're ready to butcher, and then you guys butcher them and actually ship out the meat as well. So you've kind of all in-house.
Yeah.
This is a windbreak, so, and we do a lot of strawing in the winter to keep them up off the frozen ground. It helps them retain their body heat and to stay warmer. When we had the -40s a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of straw. The guys were strawing every day almost to keep the babies warm and everybody healthy and as comfortable as we can.
But windbreaks are what we do mostly in Montana, because wind is the biggest killer for cold. It can be really cold. Cows can handle that pretty well. The wind is rough. So you guys aren't vegetarians?
No.
No? You guys all eat meat?
We oh yes.
Yeah.
We're going to cook you up a little for lunch.
Oh, all right. Okay. For those of you that look at this like the feedlot situation, everything in the wintertime has to come into a smaller pasture and they feed hay just so they can keep an eye on it. You don't run cows normally out in pasture past this point, I would say. And we're in January, because you want to keep an eye on them for calving and all that, even the spring herd. These are fall calvers, so they're already calved, but the spring calvers are going to be coming up. When do you guys calve your spring herd?
March 15th.
March.
We start. Yeah, spring calving.
So many of you are excited to see, the process of where your burger and steak and everything comes from. Many of you are all appalled when you actually realize what's where your burger comes from. Well, this is the process of where all meat comes from. And one of the things I want people to understand is that if we stopped all meat production, right? Because people have a problem with meat because it has to do with killing an animal, right? You have to kill an animal to have meat. So what happens if we all stop eating meat? What happens to all the cattle?
You wouldn't eat them.
So we'd
Kill them.
We'd have to kill them all. So or they'd overpopulate and eat everything until they all starve to death, or most of them starve to death. So we live in the real world. The real world says that there's animals that we utilize for food, and we have to kill them to eat them. And it happens in the wild where elk live, and we kill elk. So do wild animals, because if you take all the wild animals away from grizzly bears or wolves, they don't just like sit down and start eating vegetables. They die because there's nothing for them to eat. So understanding the way that life works is really important, I think, to having a good frame of mind on life itself. So as we go through this process, I want you to keep that in mind. Make sure you leave your questions for me on this topic. I love discussing this. So.
Or what we are harvesting up here at the meat plant, they're not our breeding stock. They're not getting the hormones. They're not getting the stuff that we do with our breeding herd. So we're going to be eating the steers. We're going to be eating the heifers that don't go into our program. So those animals that we harvest for beef are not getting the hormones or the antibiotics and things that some of our other cattle are for reproduction.
Okay. And so these are organic?
No,
All natural.
We like to call it all natural.
We
Like-
still vaccinate
We
the
do.
calves
Yeah.
when they're young, when they're born. We like healthy cattle here, and it makes it a little more viable calf, especially when you start condensing them in feedlot situations. The pneumonia and all those different kind of sicknesses and illnesses that they get. But beyond the vaccinations early on in life, there's nothing else going into them.
I think that's one thing people need to understand is if you have an organic herd, you're either losing a large percentage of your calves or you have two herds, because when one gets sick, you have to treat it and then you have to put it in a different herd. And I would argue, show me an actual organic herd anyway.
Yeah.
And like a totally organic herd is very, very difficult to find nowadays. Maybe when they had Texas Longhorns up here, they're impervious to almost any disease. They don't have meat either, but they have bones.
And horns.
Lots of horn. Yeah. So what do you feed them in here? What can we go to a feed?
Yeah, let's.
It's a combination of just alfalfa that we raise here. We bale it, June, July, and then it's a winter wheat that we plant late fall. We raise a willow crick and triticale, and that's cut into silage like you would just a corn silage, and it's packed into a pit just exactly the same. So we use a little bit of that, and then we also bale that triticale and the willow crick.
Yeah.
So this is the wheat. You can see a lot of the wheat stems and
Yeah. And depending on the group of cattle, everybody gets kind of their own little ration of corn, depending on what if they're nursing, if they're pregnant, breeding, if we're fattening, and stuff. So everybody has their own little ration of corn. And
If you hit them with the corn too heavy, too fast, it ruins their feet. You see the toes start to curl up a lot. So you got to be really careful of how you feed the seed stock bulls, so you don't ruin their feet. Their longevity as a breeding bull will be 2-3 years max, and then they'll go lame. So we slow them up on the corn, but in the feedlot, as those calves are weaned and they're getting to that 1,000-1,200 pounds, we slowly start increasing the amount of corn that we're feeding them to build that marbling and that fat and that flavor into that beef. So we grain feed corn and fatten on corn. We're not necessarily doing grass-fed beef at all, just for that purpose.
well, trying to get the marbling, which is fat inside the meat, right? Not just on because you can get a layer of fat on the outside of the meat. Doesn't do you. What they're talking about is marbling. When you feed sugars and different kinds of grain and everything, what it does is it builds fat inside the muscle. So when you cut a strip of steak or something, you'll see all the veins of fat in there.
Yeah,
and that's where you're.
And that's what a lot of the Wagyu does too. In the breeding, it kind of gives you finer striations of that marbling, more consistent through the beef, bringing that quality from the select to choice to prime to the prime A5 levels that we've been seeing in a lot of these cattle.
Okay.
That's a full blood Wagyu New York strips right there.
Oh yeah, you can see
You can see that fat content.
all the
in
fat
there.
through the center of the meat there is what they're talking about. So this is silage right here, and we were talking about that. So it's,
That's the silage.
and you have it chopped. The tarp on top does what? Just holds in
The moisture, but also keeps the, you know, elements out as well.
And so silage stays, it doesn't light on fire. Why is that? Why does, so if you put it in a bale of hay,
It doesn't.
I know. I don't know why. I've always wondered this.
That's a good
You put hay, you cut hay down and put it right in a bale and put it in a stack, and the moisture inside will create so much heat that it'll light on fire. But you put it in the silage pit and cover it so that moisture doesn't get out. Why in the world does that not light on fire?
We're going to Google it.
We're gonna have to Google that.
We're gonna have to Google that. So this is, what is this here?
This is beet pulp.
This is beet pulp.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just a filler that we could put in. It cheapens your ration up a little bit. There's not much,
That is wet.
nutrient content in there at all. But all the sugar beet, you know, a lot of sugar beets grown in Montana and around our region here, and we have a big sugar refinery there in town. So it's just a cheap feed. You can mix it in with, puts a little more moisture content in your feed, little filler for the cattle, and it makes it less expensive to feed them.
So if you've ever seen a wheat field, this is just the wheat packed into, chopped up, and then you see how wet that is. You can see the moisture, and it's just wet. And somehow, silage has a very unique smell to it. It's like, and it's not a bad smell. It's like a, it's a fermented kind of smell. Yeah, you can smell it. Very unique.
So this is the fat pen. So these guys are all on,
What do you mean by fat? What's a fat pen?
well, this is where they're getting fattened up, ready to harvest. And these guys are on the highest ration of corn. Here you can get out and see the corn in their feed bunk, but these guys are on, I guess, harvest row.
So, and you'll sell some of these as bred heifers, not for meat, right?
Yep. We'll sell some of these as bred heifers, and then we'll keep some for our own herd as replacements. As our older cattle get older, you know, we'll sell those older cows that aren't producing as well and, you know, go lame or something happens to them, and then we'll replace them with our younger heifers and seed stock and stuff.
So in the past, I have said, I've kind of run through a scenario of like 100 cows or something, and people have said, well, if you have 200 cows and you're going to make this much money. The thing is what she's talking about plays into this. If you have 200 cows, you're always having to replace some, so you can't sell 100% of your calves. You have to keep some of the female calves to replace some of the older cows. So you can't ever figure, well, if I have a herd of 200 head, I'm going to have 200 calves and be able to sell that. You could for a few years, but all your cows are going to get sold. So usually you replace roughly 15% of your herd. Is that about right?
Yeah, probably good. Yeah, some years more, some years less, you know, and
They cull on age, but they also cull on like, man, this is a nasty cow to
mean.
calve.
Yes.
You kinda-
Definitely the mean ones go to town. They don't stay very long because they'll hurt somebody, you know, and we had one so mean that we actually didn't even send to town, you know, because we don't want it to hurt anybody in town. That's a very rare occasion, but it happens. And
So when she says send them to town, she doesn't mean like turn them loose on Main Street. What she's saying, send them to town is a term that ranchers use to sell the cow. Like you're going to get rid of them. Go to the train station, exactly.
I know, I guess.
We were talking about horses because see, we're near Billings, so Billings is not like the most mountainous area, right? Where I live, it's like this, and you know, solid rock and cliffs and everything. A horse comes in, like there's a lot of it. You can't move cows without a horse because you can't get around anything. Here the four-wheelers come in awful handy. So the argument becomes, and there's always an old argument between the horse people and using a four-wheeler to move cows. My dad, I was going to tell him, my dad is like the epitome of the old-time cowboy. And he was never going to get a four-wheeler. He was going to do everything on a horse until he got a four-wheeler. And now He uses a four-wheeler for a lot of stuff that he never thought he would use.
Yeah.
So who's the horse people and who's the four-wheeler people here? Four-wheelers over here, horse.
It's a good mix. You know, if we need to go get something done super quick, we'll just jump on the four-wheelers and go get it done.
If you got all day,
Where they can't go, we can go. So, and we never run out of gas. So.
Exactly. This is the argument with four-wheelers and horses. It's a time thing and a.
You get bucked off and break your ribs.
Or you get bucked off and break your ribs. Right.
Stranded 4 miles from home.
That's right. I'm not sure who they're talking about there, but
We actually bred a lot of heifers to Wagus last year.
yeah, that went back to the ranch where they
So
came from.
Yep.
oh, okay.
And so he'll calve those American Wagu calves out, and then we'll buy all those calves
Back.
for
For
the feedlot from Marbled.
You guys have a herd of commercial calves. You got a herd of half Wagyu. You got some half Wagyu, half Black Angus calves that are out here that have just calved. And then you buy calves from some people that you've sold bulls to and heifers to. And then you AI those back with Wagyu. I'm just trying to get this straight. And then you AI those back to Wagyu and then sell some of the bred heifers out there that are bred with Wagyu, and then some back to the people that you bought them from, and then buy the calves back that they calve out.
Yeah, you got it.
And then you take some of those and then you buy those calves back and you feed them out and butcher them
Yeah.
Yeah.
and sell that to the end consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're about 10 operations.
I see that. I see that. And calving out is a lot of work, just so you guys know. I mean,
on heifers.
especially on heifers, because they take a lot. You got to really watch them, and they'll separate out and go back in a corner somewhere and, you know, try to have problems, and you got to be able to be there through the night, everybody's got to check them over and over just to make sure they're not having problems, because you got to help them calve, right?
Yeah.
Up in Conrad, there was a couple that years ago, back when my parents were first married, they bought a brand new pickup, and they were taking turns, the husband and wife, going out to check calves at night. And the wife went out the first shift, and this cow had calved that was really mean, and the dog got it all riled up. And she left the door of the pickup open, and the dog jumped in the cab, and so did the cow, and tore the steering column off, ripped the seats all to pieces on this new pickup. Well, she came out the other side, but she wouldn't let the wife get out from underneath the pickup. I mean, she was just really, really honky mean, trying to kill her. So the guy she's like, well, he'll wake up and come out, and he wakes up, he looks out the window, sees the headlights on, he's like, oh man, she is so nice, she took my shift too. So he went back to sleep, and I'm sure that did not work out good for him when he
probably slept outside all night.
yeah, he probably did, yeah.
Oh.
And that pickup's still sitting there. It was demolished.
That one would have went to the train station.
Exactly. Look at these guys. They're so nice. They're all jammed in the back seat. Look at 4 of them. I got the whole seat to myself up here. Okay, so now what part of the operation are we going to see now?
All right. Well, yeah, this is
the harvesting. Yeah.
Blue Creek Marbled Meat Company. So
You can see it up there on the side of the building.
marbled.com.
Need to move the Chevy out of the way.
You're not the Chevy fan, huh? Wow, so this is brand new.
Yeah, brand new facility.
So this is now to sell beef to a customer, it has to be processed in a
USDA inspected plant.
Yep.
Inspector here at all times during operation for the
Okay.
beef we do that's for sale, because we sell directly to the public, so that beef needs to be like for sale beef, USDA inspected.
And you just make sure nobody goes in here without signing in, right? Is that your job?
Macy's the one who stops them at the door.
Okay.
Snippler.
Yeah.
Yes, for that.
You got your shock stick in here somewhere? Yeah.
And better person. So these are our holding pens back here. We do custom processing for like local farmers and ranchers.
Mm-hmm. So anybody can drop off their beef that they've raised
Yes, correct.
to get butchered by you guys, okay?
So these gates are usually open, but they just drive through with their trailer, and we load them up in the pens the day before all the animals are on water. They're dry lotted before processing, but
Okay.
they're always on water. That's part of the USDA protocol, is the humane handling. All of them have to be on water. And this is the chute that they come into. So this,
For the harvest
takes place.
process begins. So
yeah.
How do you get the beef inside from here?
So there's a trap. There's a door right here. Trap door. Right
Oh,
here.
I see. Yeah.
We can bring them in here, and then we'll show you the whole process in there. But but that door goes up right there, and then you hook onto the chains and pull them through. So.
Okay. What happens if we don't have local plants like this?
Well, what happens is they have to. I mean, this opens up a lot of markets for the ranchers and the farmers. You know, that they can go out and we can co-package with them. You know, they bring in their beef and we put their label on their beef, and then they can go out and they can market it and they can sell it to people. If not, essentially the only thing that they can do is take it to town, like we're talking about, or take it to the train, and whatever the market is, that's what they're going to get. So this adds a lot to what they can do in order to, you know, get that premium for their beef that they're raising. So, no, it's been really good. I mean, and the need, and we've saw this especially over COVID, you know, the need for for processing plants and people finding another outlet for their beef, and that's kind of what stimulated this idea to build this plant, is just to provide that outlet for, you know, farmers around the local area. So, but it's been good. So.
Yeah. So we've talked about this before, because, you know, this is the real nitty gritty of it right here, because typically people don't, to make enough money on your cattle, you have to find new ways you can't just sell it. It's funny, I think a lot of people are so disconnected from the reality of where their food comes from that it bothers them to watch something, to realize that something dies to go on their plate. Now, 70 years ago, everybody had to go out in the backyard and kill a chicken to have chicken. Right? So you're so close to your food that nobody worried about it. Now you're so far removed. If this plant isn't here, that doesn't stop beef from being processed. It just moves to somewhere else, and somebody else makes the profit instead of the rancher.
Right.
We're coming in here, we're going to open the gate, we're going to pull them through, we're going to hoist them up, drop them back down into that cradle over there. We'll start side skinning. Then it'll move on down where they'll drop the guts, pull the rest of the hide out. That platform right there, you got your split and saw, they'll split them in 2 halves up onto the rail. Then we'll go through a final inspection, we'll make sure everything's clean, everything's sprayed down. And then once that's done, and it's all good to go, it'll go into the drip cooler.
And what?
Yeah, so like all the guts and everything that we're doing, we're taking to a local composter. So he's actually putting it into compost and using that in his mixture. So
That's a big door.
yeah, it's a big old door.
So this is the drip cooler. We actually got a sweep rotation system. This was the first one, last right there, so it keeps them in order as a order.
So they go in this way and out.
So they come in
Kinda
this
loop.
side,
Yeah.
they'll loop around, come this way, and then we'll move them today into that cooler. But this is kind of the first hit of a cooler temperature. We wanted to make sure everything's down to temp within 24 hours, so all the bad bacteria and stuff like that doesn't have a chance to flourish.
Yeah.
Once
Cool.
we move everything,
That's pretty big. Those are huge.
once we move everything, it'll come in here to the holding cooler, which is where we'll stage everything before we process. Typically, we like to hold things for about 14 days. We can age them a little longer. We can do them a little quicker depending on size and what the customer wants.
And what does aging do?
I think the aging breaks it down. It breaks down a lot of the fibers, makes it a lot more tender, gives it better beef flavor. It kind of gets rid of that water, that's the moisture that's in the meat.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to age everything, even deer and elk and everything. I think it adds a lot to the.
Age.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's kind of time 14 to 35 days like your money's on.
Gotcha.
14 to 35 days is your money zone?
Yeah, and usually after 35, get a little more funky flavor.
Okay.
It's kind of an acquired taste, but anything before that, that's where all your tenderization starts. A lot of the breakdown.
Yeah.
And you can see all the fat. And so the fat on the muscle here. And this is so you can keep track of what
Tag number.
animal that is, what
The hanging weight is 1,170 pounds for this animal.
1,170 pounds of hanging weight? Wow.
Hanging weight.
That is
Yeah.
big.
This is one we've raised and that we will sell.
That is a big half of a beef.
Yeah.
Yes.
We sell our halves, they're it's 250 pounds per half. That's what
250 pounds
is
per
the
half.
meat that we get to sell.
Okay, that's cut off the bone and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So this is the production room. So the animal will come in here, we'll break majority of it down on the rail into subprimals. And then a lot of, on the tables, it'll go to different positions. Someone will break it down into steaks, roasts, whatever the customer so desires. We'll save fat, we'll save bones. A lot of people render their fat down. Bones, like you can do the marrow bones, that's a big thing now. Dog treats, stuff like that.
Marrow bones are for dog treats, or that's something different?
Some people will eat those. So we haven't started doing it yet, but we'd like to get to where they call it a canoe. You'll open it up, and a lot of people roast those. It's like they call it a meat cutter.
I've seen.
You know, it's
I think they do that in other countries a lot
Yeah.
more than we do.
Yeah. This is where we'll do all of our grinding. It'll come
Oh, yeah.
out. We'll make our burger right here.
Okay.
Pack the 1 pounders, 10 pounders, however it's wanted.
Over there is packaged burger.
Yep.
Is that where the burger is?
Yep. So we have a stuffer. So we'll kick them out in 1 pounders, exactly 1 pound.
Okay.
Load them in through a roll stock machine. Take it out, and just put a label on.
I see. Cool.
So I think this is probably 1/2 right here.
1/2. Okay. Mhm.
They're separating out.
1/2 like in 4 or 1/2 and right.
I think all 4. I believe.
All 4 of those is 1/2.
So yeah. So well, this will be. So right now they're split in quarters. So
Okay.
you have
Gotcha.
1/2 right here, 1/2 right there. They'll fill this rack by the time it's said and done. I mean, they're in the middle of it.
And they track which beef that is.
Yep. The whole way through.
All the way through. So
So you'll keep. We don't drink anything until it's ready to go. So we keep your beef with your beef.
that's cool. They track all of it. Like this animal goes all the way through here. So if you bring an animal in and get it butchered, you're coming out with your same animal that you brought.
So I'll show you the flash freezer. It's really
Okay, so you flash freeze it. Why do you flash freeze it?
So what's the purpose of the flash freezer,
You
Josh?
get it down to temp, so that way, again, you're stopping any growth of bacteria, and then it's ready for packaging. A lot of times, if it's insulated in a box or anything like that, it takes a while, and you want to stay out of that danger zone.
Yeah, so
Okay.
10 below 0. So
Yeah. So that's cool.
yeah, it's chilly.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so that brings it down to really cold really fast, and then yeah, we just stack them in here. How long are they in here for, Josh?
Typically a couple hours, but we try to move them as we're moving beef through, and then it'll go into our regular freezer. But this gets everything down really quick. Food safety is key.
The processing freezer. So those local farmers and ranchers that bring their beef here, this is where we store their beef until they're ready to pick it up, and then we help them load out the back door.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is the stuff that you guys sell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Steaks. To show that marbling from the genetics.
You're gonna show me the marbling from.
Yes. So this is a ribeye from an American Wagu, which is the crossbreed between the Angus and the pureblood Wagyu. And so
That's American Wagu.
yeah, so we call it American Wagu, which
Okay.
is our half Angus, half Wagyu.
I see.
Yeah, so this is just a crossbreed, not even full blood. But look at the marbling.
And the
through-
marbling is this fat that's inside the meat here, not.
Yeah.
There's fat on the outside of a lot of beef, but the marbling is how well they get fat on the inside of that meat.
It's really tasty. It's pretty. I like to look at
That
it.
looks really cool.
This
Yeah.
is a ribeye, and then this is one of our New York steaks from an American Wagyu.
Okay.
And personally, I like the New Yorks and the ribeyes. Those are
So New York, is this the Got bone on it?
This is actually a piece of fat.
That's a
Yeah,
piece of
and
fat.
so all New Yorks are cut this way when they come off the cattle. It's just kind of like the universal.
Okay.
But yeah, there's marbling throughout the whole entire thing, and
Cool.
pretty tasty.
Yes. Is that liver there?
Yes. We do a slice of fancy
This is dry aged liver.
dried liver.
Look at that.
It's good for you.
It's good for you, huh? Are you a little cold yet?
Lots of nutrients. It's a little
Yeah.
chilly.
An Angus.
That's a sirloin, yep.
So this is Angus, so you can compare the marbling. This is an Angus. This is
generally more. Yeah.
Oh, they're not?
They're more lean.
Okay.
More lean steak.
And then these are the Wagyu.
Yep.
Okay.
Here.
I see. Yeah, the fancy handle there.
8 minutes each side.
8 minutes each side, huh?
Take
And that puts them at what medium or
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully.
medium?
How do you like them?
I like mine pretty rare. Whatever you want.
Well, then we'll do it rare.
Whatever you want, man.
Do rare.
Here, so this is a smoker, you know, so if
Oh.
beef jerky and smoking sticks and, you know, beef sticks and everything like that. So this is our smoker here, so I'm still I don't want to break it. But yeah, so that's where you go,
Wow.
and that's where all the smoking
Smells
happens.
good.
You could fit a lot of meat in there, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like the smell of smoking meat.
Oh, it's just delicious.
Fantastic.
And that's it.
Okay. Well, this is this Wagyu then, or is it
I think it's Angus.
So, yeah.
just Angus? Just Angus.
Mhm. Yeah, really good stuff. So
That's really good. Mm-hmm.
You want to make Wagyu hot dogs. That's
Wagyu hot dog.
My
Now
grandpa
that would be
wants to
pretty
the
cool.
Wagyu hot dog king. Yeah.
Well, I think there's an opening.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think so. Yep, let's check them out.
With your fancy handle. Oh yeah, look at that.
Alright. Good?
That looks good. How many minutes is that per side?
For should we pull them? I think we went 9 the first time, and then this is like 6.
Yeah,
They're pretty fat though. So
yeah, they're
I
pretty
like
thick.
them a little more rare, so
Yeah,
that's pretty rare, right?
yeah. Well, how do you like yours?
I like mine medium rare.
Okay,
probably.
well, go till you get there.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Smell good.
When you have good beef, you gotta
Alright.
have a little rareness in there, because otherwise it
Ruin
it
it.
gets tough. My wife likes hers like with they're ruined because they're brown. They're well done.
Chewy.
It's like.
Alright.
Are you an expert slicer?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I see that.
I am.
really good.
How many cattle can you process in a year?
You know, in a year, this facility can handle around 4,000 cattle. So
4,000.
yeah, 4,000.
Okay.
And what limits that is our storage. So
Storage space.
Our plan eventually is to get up to, I mean, obviously to increase that, you know, and I mean, we have plans to get up to, 25,000
Right.
eventually, but
Yeah, so this is for
Oh,
you.
well, thank you. Look at that.
Yeah. That's the Angus sirloin right here. And
On
then
the-
this is
Okay.
Angus sirloin and then the American Wagu ribeye, and you can see like the marbling throughout it.
I
It
see
melts
that.
in your mouth like butter. It's
Really?
so good. And then the New York
And this is the New York. Okay.
American Wagu. Just salt and pepper. Just salt and pepper.
that was great.
Mm. So this is
the
the beef or the Angus.
sirloin, mind you.
Yeah.
Which is a,
Which isn't as good of a cut. More
That,
like
that is so tender though. Like even the part about the fat portion
Yeah.
is typically harder, and that's very tender. And this one is
I think that's the New York.
this is the New York Wagyu.
yeah, you did a good job, Chelsea.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
I like it like this. Mm. Yeah.
So this is just salt and pepper.
Just salt and pepper.
And I have to say, there's tons of flavor in this. It's like a super flavor.
And you told
You don't
me
have to put a
we
lot on
sell
this.
our beef.
Yes.
It's all for sale.
Mhm.
Go to our
Oh, that's fantastic. What is this? This is
I think that's the ribeye. The
Hmm.
ribeye,
Yeah, that's the ribeye.
pretty unbeatable.
That is amazing.
Ribeye, New York.
okay. This is probably
Your favorite?
my favorite. That's amazing.
Doesn't it melt in your mouth like
It does.
butter?
It's
just so tender.
It's so tender
Mm-hmm.
and flavorful because not all beef has that much flavor.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
There's a difference.
mm-hmm. And this is stuff you've fattened, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
right
Mhm.
across the street.
Yeah.
Road. For most processing facilities. Yeah, you don't even need a knife for this.
No,
really.
you don't. This is amazing.
Mhm.
It's not soft, but it like falls apart. It's like
Mm-hmm.
very, very good that way, and which is amazing because a lot of times you think that's from cooking, but
Right.
and all she did was throw it on the grill for 9 minutes both ways. So it's actually the beef that's so tender.
Which one's too much?
That's amazing. I'm gonna cut it with my fork. You just
Oh, that was so easy. Like butter.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for showing me around, giving me some beef and some hats, and we'll be talking. You guys have fun raising your cattle and making Wagyu beef. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And I just wanted to take you along to show you that this is happening right here in Montana. Things are changing a little bit in that front because cutting out the big packers, the big outfits that dictate what price a rancher gets for their beef. A lot of consumers feel that ranchers make a lot of money because of the price of beef in the store, and they don't understand that they don't make that price because the packer is making it. The company that actually buys the beef, butchers it, and then sells it. So if you want to try some of this American Wagyu beef from right here in Montana, right there is the cattle, and right there is where they're processed. I mean, I'm talking within 200 yards of each other. That's farm to table. And if you're a rancher who wants to find a place to butcher your beef in an FDA approved site so that you can go sell it to your customers, this is the place you need to go. It's right here available to you. There's a couple others in Montana, but nothing that's set up to be able to take 20 head of cattle and then sell that beef yourself. I had a great time with these people. Wonderful family. It's just a huge family operation. We're going to have a discussion about the way life works, because I think a lot of people feel that they don't want anything to die, or they don't want to eat meat because something has to die for that. And they don't really understand the way life operates. Life operates with a life and death cycle in nature. And we're not going to stop that. In fact, if we stopped all beef production right now, we'd have to kill all the beef because there's no room for them anywhere. Nobody's going to just keep them on pasture for free, right? This is life. This is how we operate. This is the real world that we live in. If you live in a utopian thought process, that won't get you very far in life because you're not in touch with how life actually operates. So anyway, I'm Trinity Vandenaker. Until next time, God bless you. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for more content about Montana ranching and cowboys. If you want to see how I broke my ribs, you can hit this video right up here in the top link. If you want to see more of cowboy adventures in Montana, click the bottom link. I'll see you next time.